Gwen Mills. Let me just go ahead and start recording. So yeah, welcome everybody. Good afternoon. Good morning, folks in the West Coast. I'll just hand things over right away to Gwen Mills.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to all of the canvassers out there, and welcome to the reporters who have joined us today. Welcome into our backyard, into Unite here. We're so happy you could spend the time with us. So heads up for everyone on your phone and in the offices there, we're gonna do a little shout out roll call, and I'm gonna go around location by location, call your location, and when it's your turn, I'm asking you to all make as much noise and movement as you can so we can all see your beautiful faces out there, and come off mute if you want and give a little shout. So first off, we're gonna take it over to Arizona. I see a few big groups over there. So Arizona, let's see you and let's make some noise. All right, wow, you all are looking great. Okay, so we're gonna go up north now to Nevada. And so everyone who's in Reno, out in the turf, let's see your hands. Make some noise if you can. Let's see Reno.
Reno in the house.
Okay, go Reno. All right. Okay. You got to mute all of Reno. And we're going to give a chance for Las Vegas. Let's come down to Las Vegas. All right, guys. Stay strong. So we've heard from Phoenix. We've heard from Reno. We've heard from Vegas. You know where we're going next. Unite here, Philly. Let's hear from you.
I just want to yes.
All right. Okay, maybe we should take a moment. Thank you, everyone, and welcome again. So just a message to the canvassers first off. You are doing the essential work of democracy. You took back 2020 by defeating Trump for us and for this whole country. And then you took back the Senate in the Georgia runoffs. And their words cannot express how grateful all working people and the country is for what you did then and what you're doing now. For the press on the call, we're going to be emailing you a report afterwards for the press attendees. So please check your email for that. So I wanted to say that it is possible. We in Unite Here believe it is possible to win the Senate and the House in 2022. With the support of our allies, we are running the largest door-to-door operation in all three of these crucial battleground states, Nevada, Arizona, and Pennsylvania. We have hundreds of canvassers in the field. They've been there for the summer, and the canvases are growing now. So there's a slide that I'm hoping to show with a couple of numbers on at this point. I'll give them a minute to just put that up. So we want to demonstrate the difference that Unite Here makes in elections. So you see the states along the left. In the middle, this is the number of infrequent voters that Unite Here turned out in 2020. Not just the number of infrequent voters that voted. This is the number of people that we talked to at their doors multiple times to make sure that they came out and voted. And you compare that number with the margin of victory for Biden in those states. In Nevada, it was 33,000. It was a 2.4% margin. We talked to more than 42,000 infrequent voters who came out to vote. That's an 8,000 vote difference. In Arizona, the margin was even thinner. It was a 0.3% race. And we talked to 48,000 infrequent voters. It took 10,000 of them to hold that seat. And finally, in Pennsylvania, the margin was 1.2% or 80,000 voters, and we spoke to about half of them. So that's the difference. I wanted to put it in stark terms. That's how the day-to-day work of the canvassers adds up every single day to win these states. So the stakes of this election, the 2022 midterms, could not be higher. We are up against, in each state, MAGA Republicans who are poised to strip our rights as workers, as women, and as voters. They are all seeking crucial offices in those three states that will decide the fate of future elections. But we're obviously not going to sit by and let that happen. It's workers who are taking this on the front lines of democracy to win. So the importance of a field election cannot be overstated. Face-to-face conversations are the irreplaceable foundation of mobilizing voters to the polls. An effective canvasser needs both the right message to voters and the right messengers. So Unite Here members deliver both by driving an economic message that's rooted in their own personal experience and connecting with voters through the fact that they are voters' neighbors. And I'm so excited that you're going to hear directly from them today. So I'd just like to close by saying we have a long-term investment to building this political power. The program that we're sharing with you today is decades old. It's a cycle of building organizing infrastructure throughout our unions year-round, not just during election season. And all of the people, the leaders and the canvassers that you will meet today have been building this capacity for decades. So we're going to go through state by state now, Nevada, Arizona, and Pennsylvania, and I'm going to introduce you to leaders from each state. So first up, Nevada. We have strong elected officials in Nevada who fight for workers, and we are fighting to make sure they keep their places. So you're going to hear from our state leader, Ted Papageorge, who's Secretary Treasurer for the Culinary Union, and our canvasser, Rhonda Rogers, who's a guest room attendant at the Aria in Las Vegas. So first up, Ted Papageorge.
Great. Thank you, Gwen. And good morning to everybody. It's clear our democracy is under threat, and Nevada is key. Battleground state. All of these Republican candidates here and opposition candidates, they're all election deniers. Republican U.S. Senate candidate Adam Laxalt was Trump's legal counsel here in Nevada. Republican candidate for Secretary of State Jim Marchant is an outrageous election conspiracy theorist. And the Republican candidate for Governor Joe Lombardo is running because he thinks this union, Unite Here, and the Culinary Workers Union here in Las Vegas has too much power. He said that. And all of these candidates are openly saying that if they win, they'll count votes in 2024, really any way they want. So what are the stakes for the union here in Nevada? Well, we're in a housing crisis in Nevada. Rents are up 30% in Vegas, 22% in Reno. Neighborhood stability is our solution, and voters love it. And we're going to fight to make sure people can have a roof over their heads. But we're also fighting for candidates that have delivered for workers. Governor Sisolak signed the right to return law, SB 386, and COVID safety laws, and not one single Republican supported the workers' right to return here in Nevada. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto and our House of Representative members, Stephen Horsford, Dina Titus, and Susie Lee, all delivered on 100% funded COBRA for workers. But we also have a massive contract fight. Our union has 50,000 workers whose contracts expire next year, and we are building the future of our union. We're not going backwards. We got to go forward. So how do we win? Well, this is a tough midterm environment. We need the biggest program ever. Right now, we've got 250 canvassers and staffers statewide right now, and we've knocked on 250,000 doors already. We've identified 33,000 supporters, registered 3,000 more voters. We've got a great team with Paul, Allie, Bethany, Tiff, and Lynx on the ground. We're going to expand. The US Senate and governor's race and House races in Nevada are the tightest in the polls nationwide because they are truly toss-ups. They're rated for the Republicans, the best opportunity to flip because we're a purple state, but we're going to run the biggest program we've ever run in order to protect our democracy and also protect our union. And with that, I want to introduce a tremendous leader. Her name is Rwanda Rogers. She's a guest room attendant at the Aria Resort Hotel. She's on a leave of absence from her job. She is also leading a team of canvassers. She's tremendous, and she's going to talk a little bit about why she is in this fight. So Rwanda, thank you so much for being here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rwanda, and I want to share a little bit about myself with you, why I came out on this LOA. What motivated me was to fight for what's going on with the housing situation. The housing situation is out of control. The rents have went up substantially. And as a result, my neighbors got pushed out and I ended up with squatters. And it's unstable, it's unsafe. They have guns, they're violent, they're gang members. And my kids can't even go outside and play. If I want to have the kids play, I have to take them to a park or the movies or like a jump house or something. Before, I would be able to, stand out in front, maybe talk to my neighbors. I used to bake bread for my neighbors. I can't do those type of things anymore because it's unsafe. I want my children to be able to live life and not be like stuck in the house. It's unsafe. I can't take the dog out without worrying about, if my little boy take him out, if something's going to happen to him, or they're going to start shooting, they're going to come out with butcher knives again, or things like that. How we're going to make this change is by knocking on doors and keeping the leaders in office, making a plan, executing the plan. And I believe that we can win. We will win. We're going to reach more and more families. And I ask that you join me in this fight.
Thank you. Thank you both from Nevada. Those very powerful stories. Now I'd like to move us over to Arizona. The stakes could not be higher in Arizona, including significant repercussions for 2024 and beyond. So I'd like to introduce you to our state leader, Brendan Walsh, who's the co-political director for Unite Here Local 11, and Marilyn Wilbur, who's an Arizona State University employee and lead canvasser recruiter for the Arizona 2022 Canvas. Brendan?
Yeah, thanks, Gwen, and thanks everybody for being here. As Gwen said, my name is Brendan Walsh, and I'm the co-political director for Unite Here Local 11 that represents, before the pandemic, 30,000 hospitality workers in Southern California and Arizona. Myself, I've been here in Arizona for 15 years. Well, sorry, I'm also the executive director of Worker Power, which is the community organization with whom Unite Here partners cycle after cycle to make sure we deliver victories for working people. I've been here in Arizona myself for 15 years. And we moved here, my wife and I and my family, to be able to change Arizona, and knowing that Arizona and the future of Arizona was critical to changing the future of our country. Changing Arizona blue, Arizona is the home of a massive amounts of migration, the transition to low wage service workers from manufacturing. It's basically everything that the United States has become over the last 20 years. In our fight, we've done everything we can to mobilize new voters, young people, people of color, low-wage workers. And in doing so, our teams of volunteers, canvassers, paid canvassers have registered more than 100,000 voters over the last 10 years and also knocked on millions and millions of doors. In 2020, we were the first organization out into the field during the pandemic. And overall, we knocked on 750,000 doors in Arizona to help Biden and Harris win the presidential electoral votes here, and also to help Mark Kelly win election. We are poised to do the same thing this year. We're looking, then we went to Georgia and we knocked on 550,000 doors as part of Unite Here's large collaborative effort there in Georgia, and along with the other Georgia partners. This year, we're looking to do the same thing. We're looking to knock on 750,000 doors in Arizona to preserve democracy here and in the United States. And the stakes have never been higher. As you all probably know, that we are up against a full slate of election deniers and people that, a full MAGA slate, as Gwen said, folks that want to take away abortion rights, want to take away workers' rights, and want to take away any protection workers have to have an economically decent future. In particular, I can name the Secretary of State, Mark Fincham, the Republican candidate for Secretary of State, was actually a January 6th insurrectionist himself, was actually at the Capitol participating in the insurrection. So on the other hand, as Ted said about our allies in Nevada, Mark Kelly has delivered for working families, he's very key to passing the Inflation Reduction Act. And our candidates for governor and Secretary of State, Katie Hobbs and Adrian Montes, are people that have delivered, have done everything they can to expand participation among all Arizonans in free and fair elections. So for decades, our members have been fighting to preserve a future for themselves, for better wages, better benefits, access to healthcare, a decent education, to keep a roof over their heads. And really nobody has done that more for us or is a better example of that than Marilyn Wilbur, who has been on our team for a couple of years and really cut her teeth in the Arizona, Georgia campaigns in 2020. So I'd like to introduce Marilyn to say a couple of words.
Thanks, Brendan. As he said, my name is Marilyn Wilbur. I'm a Unite Here Local 11 member, an Air Force veteran of 18 years, a proud autism mom, and a freedom rider. And before the pandemic, I was a food service worker at Arizona State University. During the 2020 election, I was part of knocking on 1 million doors to turn Arizona blue. And then I went to Georgia to take back the Senate. And in 2021, when the opportunity came, I again packed my bags and took my 23 medications that I take every day and joined the Freedom Ride for voting rights. You see, in the Air Force, I was taught to protect our freedom. And meaning that and doing that by protecting our freedom, I put on that uniform every day, knowing that I was risking my life for democracy. Since 2020, I've protected freedom by putting on my mask and talking to voters. Since we won Arizona for Biden, the state Republicans have passed so many laws this year. One of the laws that they passed is a law that will purge hundreds of thousands from the mailing list for ballots and shortening the time for voters to cure their ballots. This is not what I put my life on the line for. This is not what democracy looks like. As a veteran, I will not rest until I know that every vote will count now and in 2024. I look forward to continuing to fight alongside of you for democracy. And as we say at Unite Here, when we fight, we win. Thank you.
That's right. That is so right, Marilyn. Thank you, Marilyn, and thank you, Brendan. When we fight, we win, and when we vote, we win. So I'd like to turn it now over to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is ground zero in 2022. And we have two phenomenal leaders there. First, Roslyn Wichinik, president of Unite Here Philly Local 274 and our campaign director, and Frederick Hollis, a laundry attendant at the Sheraton downtown Philadelphia. Take it away.
Hello, I'm here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania with our amazing Canvas operation. We here in Pennsylvania see this midterm election as a true battle for the soul of our entire state and our entire country. There is no question that the forces that allowed Donald Trump to win this state in 2016 are on the ballot here in 2022. We know that the statewide races here are close. Trump won the state in 2016 by only 44,000 votes, Biden in 2020 by only 80,000 votes. Last year, Republicans won in statewide judicial races statewide. And this year, for the first time this century, more Republicans voted than Democrats in our primary, despite Democrats having a registration advantage of over 500,000 registered voters. So as a union, we are determined not to let 2016 repeat itself in Pennsylvania. That is why we have mounted and we are running the largest door-to-door operation in the state of Pennsylvania. So why does knocking on doors matter? It's because the people that we need to get to vote are the ones that are the least likely to vote. Philadelphia is the poorest big city in the United States. And working and poor people of color here are facing daily monumental struggles with gun violence threatening families' lives every single day and low wages and high costs making every day a challenge. Working class people, Black and brown people, low-income women are not going to vote unless a person coming from their communities literally knocks on their door and brings the stakes of this election to them face to face. We've known that. It's what we did in 2020, and that is why we've been doing that already for months. And what we are finding as we are knocking on these doors is that, in fact, in our communities, people want to be the ones that make that life-changing decision about when they become parents. Working class Black and brown people, men and women, want to make sure that they and their children have the right to an abortion. We want to make sure that the right that so many people fought and died for, the right to vote, is not taken away by our next governor. And also that the trauma that many of us experienced when 23 public schools closed in Philadelphia in 2013, the last time we had a Republican governor, does not happen again to our children. So that is why we're knocking on every single door we can, why we're bringing in more and more people, and why we're determined to win this battle for the soul of our state and of our country. And so many amazing people have been leading this fight. I'm with one of them, Frederick Hollis, who is a 22-year member of our union at the Sheraton Philadelphia Downtown Hotel. He's been out for many months and is now leading a canvas team. And I'm going to hand it over to Fred.
Hello, Unite here. My name is Fred Hollis. And yes, I canvass and doing these, well, this is my 5th campaign that I have done. And Georgia was the one that inspired me and gave me the passion of doing this, because I looked at it as, we can flip Georgia, we can flip any state. Unite Here can go anywhere and flip a state. So I feel as though Pennsylvania, not only Pennsylvania, the whole United States, we under threat of democracy. I think, you know, these Republicans are really trying to take our rights, and they're trying to take the women's rights. And I want to be that voice for my young daughters, you know, so they can get old enough and speak for themselves. And that's why I knock these doors and state to these voters that is very important. You need to vote. If you don't want your rights taken, you have to get out and vote. Your vote means a lot. Or if you don't get out and vote, it will be a problem. If you don't vote, your rights will be taken. And you see with Roe versus Wade has been overturned, women's rights are going to be taken. So get out and vote. You need to vote. And by me talking about Georgia, it really get them motivated. Because, you know, if they look at it, Georgia is a red state, been a red state for years. So that kind of inspired voters. So I kind of talk about that a lot, and that inspired them to get out and vote. And it's very powerful getting out here, knocking on these doors, and, you know, talking to the voters, because they feel as though it means a lot when people can come out and talk to them, express, you know, talk to them about what's going on in your community, what needs to change in your community. You know, can I help you change anything in your community? So it's very important that we do that. And I'm glad that Unite Here is running campaigns to knock these doors and be interactive with voters, like we do. And I'm very happy to be a canvasser, and yes, that's my passion. I love talking to these voters to get out and vote. You have to vote. And thank you guys. We're gonna win these elections. I need everybody to get out and knock on these doors like I'm doing so we can win. And we're gonna win these elections. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frederick. Thank you, everybody that just spoke. Appreciate all of our canvassers, especially for being out there. I know, like, even in like Pennsylvania, it's really hot right now. So I appreciate it. I know you guys are dealing in extreme heat, long days. So thank you all for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and open up for reporters on to have any questions that you might ask. We have a couple of advanced questions, but I'll just open it up first before we jump into those. I guess if folks want to put in the chat or raise your hand if you are pressed and have a question right now for anybody that spoke or any one of our states. Okay, I'll go ahead and pull up one of the advanced questions we had. I think this one can go to Gwen. How do you feel about the economic scenario in the US and how it can impact the midterm elections?
Yeah, thank you. I think the economic situation in the US is it's a super challenge. Income inequality is at its most extreme ever. Inflation is a huge challenge, just everyday needs of people, and you heard about the housing crisis and how that's impacting people. So workers and working people are feeling the brunt of all of that, and it can certainly make people feel hopeless. I think the one-on-one conversations with people at their doors, where we are sharing our own struggles, can make connections, can bring back hope, can make people feel empowered in voting. I certainly know meeting people like Rwanda or Marilyn or Fred at a door and actually just cutting through all the noise and talking about the real issues would make a huge difference. So I think that's the connection. We have to be out there talking about those economics and not trying to sweep it under the rug.
Thank you, Gwen. We have a question from Daniel Marins at HuffPost. What do you say to people who ask about inflation and feel that President Biden is to blame? I think, Gwen, you could take that one too.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to comment on that too, Gwen, when I get a minute.
Yep, for sure. Okay. It's related, I think, to what I just said. But this inflation crisis has been years in the making. It's coming off Republican systematic deregulation, huge tax breaks for corporations, runaway deficit spending, despite the fact that they say the opposite. So people may feel that way because that's what the PR machine of the Republicans are saying, but they contribute to causing this crisis. So I think we need, just as I was saying in my previous answer, get back there on the doors talking about income inequality and prices and housing and the victories that we've had with the Democrats and why it's important to vote. So someone else wanted to comment. I didn't see who that was.
This is Ted. Just a quick comment. Look, inflation's number one issue here in Nevada. It's across the country. And look, we just come out swinging about that. The reality is Republicans, when you have a conversation on the door, Republicans don't have any credibility on these issues. Nobody believes that Republicans are going to take on giant oil corporations that are price gouging people on gas. Nobody believes that. And nobody believes that Republicans are going to take on, these corporate landlords, these Wall Street landlords that are buying up homes and jacking up rent. So, but it's the conversation on the doors that are key. And, working class voters talking, working class workers and our members talking to working class voters cuts through all of that nonsense. And just the last comment on that, because there's a lot of talking head nonsense out there about, that working workers are to blame for inflation. We just think that's disgusting, and the help that workers got these candidates to keep them in their homes for food banks and money during the pandemic. Look, we're going to back up the folks that backed us up. So we have a pretty strong discussion with folks about that, and folks agree.
Thank you so much. I think this one can go to any one of the states or all. When you're talking to voters, what's the thing that's on their minds the most? Are people happy to talk with you? I think maybe if one of our canvassers can answer that one. One of our canvassers that spoke today. Marilyn, Frederick, or Rwanda, do you want to take this question?
Yes. What was the question again?
When you're talking to voters, what's the thing that's on their minds the most? Are people happy to talk with you?
Well, when I knock on the doors, people are excited that we're there because they're looking for those red shirts to come out and tell them, you know, what's really going on and how things are. People are not as informed about the primaries, about the midterm elections as they are as a full election. But when I'm talking to them, they really are receptive to what we're saying. They're really concerned about the governor's race here in Arizona, as well as the Senate race here in Arizona, and they know what's at stake, and they know that we are definitely a state that can go either way, red or blue, and a lot of them want to turn Arizona blue. So it works for working families and people out there.
If a voter asks me that question, I normally would answer them back as, I'm out here. I'm out here to talk to y'all, which is the voters, and because I feel as though as a canvasser, like I want to make a change, and in the world. So that's why I'm out here doing this, and they tend to say, well, oh, great job, good, great job, because it takes a strong person to knock on strangers' doors, and doing what you're doing. They kind of gradually, and I'm glad that you knocked on my door. I appreciate it, that you coming out and you doing the work that you're doing. So that's how I normally would, respond to a voter that would, answer that question to me.
Rwanda, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, like I know, like what gives me hope is knowing that there's other working families out there like me. When I'm out on doors, I encounter families like there was a apartment complex I went to, and they had an eviction notice on the door, and knocked, I could see like a little kid peek out, and I think they thought like I was a bill collector or going to evict them or something. And then when she opened the door and I, announced myself and what we were there for, the mom came and talked to me. And when she opened the door further, I can see like there was like 8 or 9 families living in there. And they had these little makeshift like cots and dressers. Like there was a cot, a dresser, a cot, a dresser, like these. I never seen anything like that, and they're being pushed out, and they're struggling, So what we're doing is so important, for people like myself, the community. We need to stand together and make a change and win.
Thanks all. Yeah, so we're getting a couple more questions here. We have someone from KUNR Public Radio in Reno wondering, for Ted or Rwanda, could you elaborate why Nevada was one of the 3 states chosen as a key state, and what are we hearing from voters in Reno?
Well, I can say a couple words about that. Look, Nevada's a purple state. got independents, Republicans, Democrats, and some history of Republican. I think the last 20 years had a Republican governor before we supported Governor Sisolak in 2018 and won that election. But there's also the demographics are pretty clear. Our union is 60% Latino, 60% women, and Nevada electorate reflects that. So the opportunity to have working class voters to have their voice heard is here in Nevada, and we're going to fight. We are definitely going to fight. So I don't know if Rwanda would like to add anything to that.
I think Rwanda, you're on mute.
I think Ted summed it up.
Okay, great. Alrighty. Then another question. How concerned are voters about democracy issues? If so, how does it get expressed? I know all 3 states can speak about democracy issues.
Do you want to call us out, Deanna? Or
Yeah, I guess there's some maybe from Arizona or Philly want to take that one.
Yes, when they ask that question, especially a lot of elderly voters, because they feel as though they fought they fought a lot to get where they at as far as voting, and they feel very strong, like no one's going to take my voting rights, because my people before her, her generation or his generation have passed away to fight for voting rights, and they feel very strong about certain rights being taken from them, because they really fought hard, senior people, and I kind of I understand that as a minority man. Our grandparents and fought a lot so we can have the rights to vote. So they really feel strongly about that. I had a lot of conversations about that, and they are very concerned about that, voters.
Maybe I think Arizona can take.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
if I could just jump in quickly. Maybe Marilyn could say more about exactly what's happening on the doors every day, but I think the idea that these politicians on the other side of the aisle want to steal the election, that they refuse to recognize the results of a legitimate election, I think that kind of resonates more than even the voter suppression stuff. Like the idea that they want to go back and overturn elections and have unfair situations is really, really upsetting to people, I think. I do want to go back and just address something in the chat about Latino enthusiasm. I think we are at the doors seeing a lot in Arizona of people who are actually interested in participating and concerned about what's going on. I think Marilyn said it, that folks aren't aware as they usually are, but I think people, once they kind of really understand there is an election coming, are very eager to participate and understand what's at stake.
So when I'm at the doors with the voters, and they ask about their rights being taken away, how fair it is, how fair it isn't for them, I try and reassure them and empathize with them, because I understand what it's like to see democracy eroded the way it is, especially being a veteran. But I also try and talk to them to show them what democracy should look like. How we should be voting, who we should be putting into office, and what should be better for them and their families. So I do try and give them a little bit of hope there to understand that we can change things. That's what democracy is all about. Voting, your voting rights have not been taken away completely, and we can still fight. So I encourage them to still fight, to still stand up, and get out there with me and help save democracy.
Yeah, I just want to just again reiterate, I think I know the question was about democracy, and I think that's a primary issue here. But one of the things we're finding in the door is that to motivate people, Mark Kelly is very popular because of the changes that he made. The fact that Democrats have delivered in ways that really make a difference for working people is actually what we're reminding people, what our canvassers are reminding people, so that they can understand, they can have faith that if they vote for this candidate, if they vote for this slate of candidates, not only will you be fighting against the attacks on democracies, but you're actually voting to put more money in your family's pockets to actually have a better life for yourself and your family, and that these politicians have proven that they will deliver for our people.
All right. Thank you all. I know we could talk all day about the stakes in these 3 states particular, but I'm gonna kick it back to Gwen to kind of wrap things up for us today. If anyone had any more questions or anything, you could definitely follow up with me. I'm gonna put my email in the chat. For folks that RSVP'd, you can look for the report Gwen mentioned from our 2020 program and what we did in Georgia, as well as just more information about what we have going on this time later today. So thank you all. I'm going to kick it back to you, Gwen.
Okay, great. Thank you, Diana and Rwanda and Marilyn, Fred, Ted, Brendan, and Roslyn. And for all of the reporters who joined us today, we want to extend a big invitation for you to join us, to walk with us, to come in the field. We tried to invite you in, give you a picture of who we were, have you sort of right in our living room, so to speak, see all of our canvassers coming together, but we'd love to have you walk with us and be able to get the answers to the questions that you're asking through your own experience on the doors with some of the canvassers. So that's an open invitation at any point. And just to say in closing, in 2020, let's remember, at the time that we launched our political campaigns, the world was only months into COVID. No one thought that it was possible to go door to door and do canvassing. People had no hope about being able to defeat Trump. And you made the decision over and over and over in multiple states to say, no, like canvassing is essential work. We are going to get out there and do it. We are going to protect ourselves. Not a single person got sick in the context of the canvass. And we went out there and we showed the world that it was possible to knock on doors and break the isolation and keep talking and turn people out to vote and to win in 2020. And this year, there are strong headwinds again, but we are organized, we are together, we are committed, and to every single person that's knocking on doors every day, your commitment is what is making that possible. So thank you, and this is our moment to take yourselves off mute, all of us, wherever you are, move your hands, make some noise, share some love.